We are at the Woodland Indian Hamlet in historic St. Mary's City with Site Supervisor Bill Schinder. Bill, so interesting to talk to you and what your life is like every day as you bring what was the year, 1636?
1634.
1634 to life. Let's talk a little bit about the Woodland Indian Hamlet and what visitors can experience when they come here.
Well, what we have here are, first of all, a number of structures representative of various structures you would have seen in the Indian village at the time. We have examples of the houses, which in their language they called a witchot. Today we would just say longhouse. And we have a couple set up differently from each other, because what happened when the English colonists arrived here, the Indians were in the process of abandoning this side of the river, and so they made a deal to buy the village on this side that was being abandoned. And as a result, the English used some of the Indian houses as temporary houses until they had an English-style house built. So we have one of our Indian houses set up as if an English person is living in there. So you get an example to see some of the various things that the English brought over with them to initially start up the colony. As far as other things that visitors can do here, well, we have a couple of things that are very kid-friendly. For example, we have a game over here, a corncob dart game that kids can throw corncob darts through. We have a corn grinder here, so kids can grind up some corn. We have various activities that we do in terms of site maintenance, like making mats that cover the buildings. People can show up and we can teach them how to make cordage or string using an African grass. So there's various different things that visitors can do as they're walking around and experiencing our site.
That's wonderful, and it's nice because people can come in and really get a sense of what it was like in the 1600s to live in this part of Maryland. When you are walking around with visitors, what are some of the questions that you hear a lot of times from people?
Well, one of the questions was, one I hear frequently is, did they get along?
The Indians and
the colonists.
Okay.
And the answer to that question is yes. Everything started out on a very good foot from the very first encounter, and it remained that way for a number of years here in the colony. As we all know, eventually things are going to go downhill with our relations with the Native Americans. But at least here things started off on a very good foot.
And that's nice, and people enjoy that because they really get a sense of how two different cultures met together, came together, and succeeded with what they had at hand. Yeah,
now there are obviously concepts between the two groups were different in certain areas, like land use, for example.
Okay.
The Indians had no concept of owning land like the English did. So you used an area, but the Indians would not have considered that to be theirs. Whereas an Englishman, if they acquired
stake off a
that's exactly right. We mark out our territory, and that's ours, and it's not yours.
Right.
So.
Well, it's interesting to see the different cultures come together, and I love all of historic St. Mary's City, and each place that you go, you learn so much about the heritage that is very rich in the state of Maryland.
Well, and also here we explore a couple of themes that are very relevant to today. Immigration and tolerance. And certainly here, this is an example of where tolerance worked out well. And of course, the English colonists coming over, well, that's the immigrant story, coming to a new world and making a new start. And this is one of the reasons why people took the risk to come over here, because they had the opportunity to do something that they would have never had the opportunity to do in England.
Absolutely.
And that's to own land and to hopefully make a success of yourself.
Wonderful. Well, Bill, it was nice to talk to you, and I love the underlying theme in every single place I've gone in historic St. Mary's City. The past meets the present, and it's preparing our youth for the future by examining where we've been. And that's really such an amazing underlying theme.
Yes, it's something that we always are working on in terms of trying to tie what happened here to what's going on to today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us at the Woodland Indian Hamlet in historic St. Mary's City.